Hi everyone, so today is day 9 of our Cricut Christmas Crafting Challenge and we will be making this festive gift bag. It's ideal for things like wine or spirits, but you can also use it for other gifts. For today's craft, we're going to use our Cricut cutting machine, the heat press, a standard grip cutting mat, the Cricut heat mat. Then I'm using the everyday iron-on in red, as well as the silver glitter iron-on. Got some butcher paper, a measuring tape, and these burlap gift bags. The first thing we need to do is just measure our bag to make sure that we know what size our design should be. So if you take your tape measure, mine shouldn't be wider than 5 inches and higher than about 10. Because remember, once you pull the strings, your design should only come to about there. When you open Design Space, click on the New Projects tab at the top. And the first thing we want to do is just create a template for the outline of our design. So we're going to click on Shapes, click on the square, and we said that our design shouldn't be bigger than 5 by 10 inches. So if you click on the lock at the top and just unlock it, you can go ahead and you change the width to 5 and the height to 10. And that's basically the outline of our template. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller so I can see it all on one screen. And then what we want to do is we want to add some text. So I'm going to click on the text box, just move it to the side, and then I'm going to change the font at the top. So click on the down arrow, and the font that I'm using today is called Hello, and it's a free font that you can download from the font. I'll put the link in the description below and you can use that if you want. Alternatively, you can use whichever font that you would prefer. So I'm just going to type in hello in my search bar. And as you can see, any font that's downloaded from an external site onto your computer will come up in your Systems tab. So you click on the font and then it changes it. So what I want to do next is I'm just going to double click on that and type in the text that I want on my bag. So I'm just going to type in let's get jolly. You can put an exclamation. We can then go and change the width of our text. And I'm going to go into the size at the top, make sure the lock is locked and change that to 4. It will then automatically change the height accordingly. I'm going to then go up to the top and change the color, move the text onto your template, and then highlight both the text and the background. Go up to align and say center. To make this a little bit easier, I'm going to click on my template and then go to the top and just change the color. There we go. The next thing I want to do is just add some stars maybe to the background. So if you go into images, I'm going to just type in Christmas stars or star. And then I'm going to click on the free box on the side. And then the image I'm going to use is this one on the side. So click on that and say add to canvas. Just going to move it to the side a little bit, resize it. Let's make that 1.2. I'm going to want to duplicate this just because I'm going to use a little bit more than 3 stars. But what I want to do before I do that is just go and ungroup. And in that way I can just move the individual stars individually instead of as a group. So if you highlight that again, go up to the top and change the color to silver. And then we can right click and say duplicate. Just want to do that one more time. Now we can go ahead and just move our stars around on our design. Leave that one there. And there we go. So before we can click on make it, what I want to do is just go click on the text and say attach. Then what you can do is go up to the eye next to the text box and hide that. You can do the same with the actual template. Click on the template and hide that away, and then go and highlight all the stars at the same time and say attach. We can now go back to our text and click on the eye again, and it will show back up. I'm going to keep my template hidden at the back, and then I'm going to click on make it. I'm using normal iron-on vinyl, so I'm going to say on mat. I'm using a 12 by 12 inch mat. I'm going to say confirm. And as you can see, this is what I was talking about earlier, where your stars will cut out in exactly the position that you had them on the design. If you didn't have them attached, they would all just line up over here next to each other. Because we're using iron-on vinyl, it's very important to remember to mirror our cuts. So click on the mirror tab over there, and then you go down and click on the second mat and do the same on this one. We can now go ahead and say continue. To set my base material, I'm going to click back onto the first mat and say browse all materials. In all categories, click on the down arrow and go down to iron on, and I'm using the silver glitter iron on. So I'm going to click on that and say done. I'm going to increase my pressure to more, and it does again remind you to mirror your image. So if you haven't done so already, you can click on the edit button on the left hand side before you continue. I'm using my fine point blade, and I can now go ahead, add my glitter iron on face down or shiny side down onto my mat and insert my mat into my machine. Once your mat has been measured, you can click to make your cut. Once your cut has been completed, you can remove your mat from your machine and remove your cut from your mat. Your machine will now prompt you to set the base material for mat 2. To set my base material for my second mat, I'm going to click on browse all materials. In all categories, go down to iron on, and then in this case I'm using the everyday iron on. I'm going to click on that and say done. Pressure, I'm going to change to more. As mentioned before, it does remind you to mirror your image. I'm using my fine point blade, and I can now go and load my iron-on vinyl shiny side down onto my mat and insert my mat into my machine. You can now go ahead and make the cut on mat 2. Once your cut has been completed, you can remove your mat and weed your designs. So I've sent my settings to my heat press, and basically what I need to do is I need to heat up my blank at 305 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 seconds. So I'm going to just take some butcher paper, lay it over, and apply some firm pressure. We can now go ahead and place our design onto our blank. So as you can see here, I actually just cut the transfer sheet out around my wording. And in that way, what I can do is I can place the second layer with the glitter iron on right on top. It's very important though that you just make sure that on the areas where the top layer is, there's no transfer sheet from the bottom layer that will overlap. So what I'll do is I'll just move that a little bit down, and there we go. So it's fine if the wording and the top layer has two 2 layers of transfer sheet. But as mentioned, the top layer, just make sure that you don't put your top design on top of a piece of transfer sheet. And then I can layer this at the bottom. There we go. I can now add my butcher paper again and press my design at 305 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 seconds. Again, apply firm pressure. Our instructions now tell me to flip this blank around and press it for another 15 seconds. As per the instructions, this is a cool peel, so what we need to do is just wait for the transfer sheet to be cool to touch before we go ahead and remove it. Now that our transfer sheet is cool to touch, we can start on the edge and remove it slowly. And there we have our final product. Quick, easy, and just so beautiful.